Hey everyone, Suri here, and welcome back to another week of Astro Season Offense matches. This week I decided to bring back Kronya for the spotlight. It was a Bolt Tower bonus week, which is almost as good as getting a bonus week for Kronya herself, since the Bolt Tower really does a lot of work to enable her own Vantage Sweep style by making it much easier for her to secure knockouts and snipe key targets before the enemy phase. The build I use on Kronya relies on Fatal Smoke to make it a lot easier to get that damage to stick, both from the Bolt Tower and from herself and her allies, and means that in a lot of cases she can just ignore the enemy healing tower or enemy healers and just focus on finding the right target at the right time. Savage Blow is a good way to help enable her weapon on her own if she needs to, while Special Spiral and Ruptured Sky give her a solid extra bit of punching power once she gets it charged up. It's not usually too hard to do that, with a couple of combats and a dance. And Close Counter means that she can counterattack any opponent that comes her way. I paired her up with Takumi, and actually decided to take a chance on his new Refine. I wasn't too fond of it when I first saw it, since getting the extra few points of damage lined up directly with the Bolt Tower is usually very important, but having the damage spread out over 2 turns does open up some flexible options for the team, like covering more of the map with a little bit of damage to enable Kronya's weapon, as long as you can avoid healing towers or snipe it beforehand, and actually just being able to do up to 14 damage instead of 10, with the right planning, can make a big difference in Kronya's ability to close out a match. I do have him equipped with Wind Sweep and Poison Strike as well, just as an extra way to try and help Kronya punch through some annoying targets, but he doesn't get too many chances to use that, and didn't use them at all this week. P&E, meanwhile, is a great way to help boost Kronya's attack power, even from across the map, along with providing the team with an extra dance or two. The mythics on the team are, as usual, mostly just here to support. Naga is a very bulky unit with Fortress Skill and Refined Water Breath in her bonus week, but she's mostly here for easy access to speed and defense buffs along with Chill Defense, to help mitigate any exceptionally bulky units. Ashura can always soak Bright Shrines thanks to Double Life and Death, and Plumeria's extra Dance and Guidance are really useful for helping navigate the map. Kronya didn't quite manage to sweep the week this time though. There was one map that we used a different team for, and that let Naga get to star in a carry role again in her bonus week. I backed her up with Fjorm this time as a Farsave bodyguard for a melee specialist Naga, and used Gatekeeper to help support them both. Giving Naga Obstruct with Gatekeeper on the team might sound a little overkill at first, but Gatekeeper can't actually stop melee opponents from crossing through Naga's tiles when he's standing behind her, so it really helps avoid any stray cavalry units sneaking past. Mirror Stance and Dragon Wall are a pretty useful combination for Naga too, giving her an almost guaranteed 40% damage reduction against any melee opponent she fights, especially with the extra stats she can get from Divine Breath. Her Divine Fang personal skill doesn't offer her too much combat utility, but it does help to enable her weapon and indirectly can provide her with up to +9 to every stat. Fjorm, meanwhile, is an excellent Farsave unit. Kestrel Stance gives her a much better chance at avoiding being doubled by any of her opponents, and Mystic Boost offers her a lot of extra post-combat healing to sustain her way through multiple fights. Gatekeeper's build is just meant to let him soak Dark Shrines away from Naga, and also provide a very large amount of attack and speed in combat to both Naga and Fjorm, while Bridal Fjorm is here to provide the team with some isolation and ground order support. Now that we've gone over the teams, let's get to the first match. This match is going to be a fun way to let Kronya return to action. They don't have a terribly threatening defense here, it's all walled in, and relies a lot on Henriette as a Farsave user, and a bulky frontline to avoid anything dying too quickly. Niffle helps a lot with that thanks to the damage reduction she offers nearby teammates, and the Edelguards can be pretty tricky to break just by attacking into them. But not having an Anemo Blessing on this Fallen Edelguard is a bit of an oof moment, and it's not too threatening if you have a way to crack through Henriette. And since they don't break our bolt tower with a Duma or a catapult, and this healing tower isn't too hard to snipe, it shouldn't be too hard for Kronya to handle this match. We are going to take a few turns just to let all of our out-of-combat damage start taking effect, and we'll start by having Asher break a pumpkin.
It will be done.
And flip Kronya forward and let her test this heavy trap.
Okay.
That's the real one. Good. That makes it easier to get to this trap. Get to this ether pot later on. Then we'll just continue cleaning up the map by having Asher break this throne. Takumi is going to move into position to start firing his Scotty, and also break some more stuff. And Plumeria cleans another section up. They get locked out because we're all out of range. And the damage begins. And here, Kronya can pick up this healing tower and stop them from being able to recover any of this health. And then we'll flip her back. And Plumeria is going to dance Kronya. And let her flip Naga back. And we'll dance Naga with Peony. And let her move over here. Then we'll move Asher down here. And say go. And with that turn, it's over half their team down to 1 hit point before we start things off. This panic mana could be a problem if we didn't have Ashura, but with Ashura on our team, it's not such a big deal. Kronya should be able to just finish Henriette off from here, and start chipping away at the Brave Edelgard's health pool. And then we'll have Ashura open up this Bright Shrine to let Kronya have access to the rest of the team and give them access to her. Then we'll flip Ashura out of the way.
Close your eyes.
Dance Kronya from here.
Time to kill.
And then let her attack into this Fallen Edelgard, whose entire kit is actually offline since she's so low on health. Then dance Kronya one more time. And completely disregard this bolt tower since nothing's actually going to get a chance to hit her without already bearing.
Okay.
And knock out this Duma.
You're in my way.
And then we'll move Taco forward a little bit and start getting ready to pick up these ether pots. Nope. Bolt tower hits, but it's not enough to really matter, since Edelgard wouldn't survive Kronya,
Just a nuisance.
even with Nifl's damage reduction involved, and so Nifl moves in first since she only has 1 health to lose.
You're in my way.
And Edelgard moves next and meets a similar fate. And we're out of range of Mirabilis. From here, we actually don't care too much about whether or not this trap is real, since if it's real, that means the other one's not.
Why not?
And Plumeria can just move over to dance Takumi and let him pick up the pot anyway.
A new dawn.
And then Peony can move over and dance him to pick up the second pot.
Time
And then
to
we'll
kill.
just let Kronya close out the match.
Just a nuisance.
So pretty straightforward clear to start the week. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be another fun one, this time with 7 units instead of 6. We've got a couple of pretty solid frontliners on their team with a refined Brave Alm and a Brave Marth. It might be a lot of red, but these two are very hard to handle if you just try to enemy phase them. And Marth's Shining Emblem gives everybody nearby a set of attack buffs to work with for free, along with the full spectrum of buffs for himself. We're backing all of that up with 3 mythics, a bonus week Leaf, Saros with Wings of Light to help pad Leaf and Duma's stats, and Duma with boots can at least have a little bit more mobility than usual. Nils as a dancer is always a bit of a pain to deal with thanks to the debuffs from his weapon. And Espel's not a mage you see a whole lot of on offense or defense, but he's still pretty solid. This weapon is very useful. The bonus neutralization is not an effect that people might take into account when they're figuring out how to approach this. The extra range that Alm and, well, Marth's every other turn Tempest get also make it a little trickier to approach this than it looks at first, since these two effectively have cavalry movement, even if Marth's is only every other turn, and that can make it a little annoying to plan things out. I'm not expecting to have too many problems with it, though. Our first order of business is just to pick off this healing tower, and then get back out of range of Alm.
Close your eyes.
Which we can do since it's not too close to the front, or the back, rather. And Kronya can break it, and we'll dance her one more time,
Okay.
and flip Peony out of the way, while Ashura and Naga get ready to start testing bolt traps on the other side of the map. And Takumi is just going to stay put and snipe down some health bars. From here, we're going to test this first bolt trap and see if it's real. It's fake. That's a little unfortunate, but we can still make things work even with that. We'll just move Kronya here, which gives Plumeria an aerobatics target to dance Naga. And then we can dance Kronya and give her an orders buff, which lets her get to this tile over here. And we'll just move Naga down here and let Takumi wait in place again. Nothing happens again. All our lasers fire, and their team is left pretty hurt. From here, we should be able to take advantage of this panic effect.
Time to kill.
And we'll actually let Kronya just tank Marth and his special.
Believe in me.
While I don't actually remember
You wanna die.
right here if his team is going to get to keep these buffs for next turn. I kind of hope they do, since it would mean that, well, they're taking an extra -6 to every stat.
Yes.
Here, we're just going to flip Plumeria over to... Well, I don't quite understand how I managed to forget that we have Smite on Ashura here, but it's okay. We can still just have Peony jump forward and dance Kronya. And then we'll have Kronya move in and knock out Nils. We could take out Alm here instead if we wanted, but he's going to actually just debuff himself with this threatened skill, and I'd rather get the extra damage done to Leaf instead.
You're in my way.
And then we're
Close
going to
your
pretend that
eyes.
we actually meant to smite Plumeria this way, and have her work on getting to this Aether pot,
I'll do it.
and then end the turn. We're not worried about panic, since, well, Ashura's null panic is pretty useful. And Kronya should just be able
You're in
to
my way.
vantage sweep her way through everything except Duma. Alm moves in, but he's not fast enough to sweep her with
Just a nuisance.
a panicked speed buff and a sabotage on top. Aswell moves in, also only has 1 health to lose,
Just a nuisance.
which is why Leaf is moving last. But none of them are going to survive her.
Just a nuisance.
Many nuisances. And Duma can't reach us. Then from here we'll
I'll
just
do
have
it.
Plumeria pick up this pot,
What is your
We'll
desire?
flip Takumi forward and let him break the second one. And then
Time to
Kronya can
kill?
close out the match.
Guess you wanna die.
Down he goes. That was a fun one. Slight mistakes aside. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be another interesting one, this time featuring a full safe ball with Henriette and this very impressive Zephiel. It's a good forma, and a Flame to back them up. It's a little tricky since the positioning here means that Flame doesn't cover the entire team, and well, Henriette doesn't actually cover them either. Both Thracier and Ceres are out of her range. But moving Flame to Zane's position would mean that they'd have to use her as a 7th unit instead of Henriette. So, it's a bit of a tricky positioning setup puzzle to solve. Having 3 mythics does boost the stats of their non-mythic units pretty impressively, and this Zane gets some very solid defenses to work with, thanks to his weapon that copies his allies' stats. Flame in particular, though, is going to be annoying, not necessarily because of her 30% damage reduction, but because she has a heal that we can't just turn off. Even with that, though, I'm not expecting to have too many problems with this. Should be able to get things going relatively easily. And finish things off.
I am the answer.
I'm going to take this first turn to snipe their healing tower,
Close your eyes.
since we don't want that in the way.
It will be done.
Then we'll have Takumi break this bolt tower,
Okay.
and we'll move Kronya slowly forward
Done.
to pick off their tactic
yeah.
room. We're out of their range here, so nothing's gonna happen. From
There
here,
is
we're
but
going
one
to
future.
take a little bit more time to move into position and
Time to kill.
test this heavy trap while we're at it. It's fake.
On the right foot.
It would have been fine if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Then we'll move Kronya back out of the danger zone. Have Takumi flip Asher to the right.
Yes.
Then we're going to move Asher over here.
Why not?
Have Plumeria Dancer. And use this Order's buff
What is
from
your
Peony
desire?
to break this flower pit. And then say go. Yep. Flame heals Henriette, which is kind of a good thing since it means Zephiel isn't going to get topped off. And from
Yes.
here, we can just smite Kronya forward and let her start picking knockouts.
Okay.
And also charge up Ruptured Sky while she's at it. Ceres makes a pretty easy first victim. Then we're going to move Naga back down this way and use
My warmest greetings.
Peony's Geodance
What is your desire?
to flip Plumeria to the right, and then dance Kronya forward, which will let Plumeria jump up here and pick up an Aether pot, while Kronya moves forward and takes down Thracier. The Geodance honestly probably wasn't necessary there. I just want to make sure Kronya gets all the buffs she can to handle things in this next phase. From here, Rally happens first, and then Zephiel gets rescued,
Just a nuisance.
and we start going down the health chain. Zane moves in next, also gets one-shotted,
You fool.
and finally opens the path for Henriette to attack.
You're
And,
in my
well,
way.
when she's not defending, she's a much easier target to crack, even though Flame does make it a little more annoying thanks to the damage reduction. She still ends up going down. And then from here it's pretty easy to clean things up. We'll just
not?
dance Plumeria once,
Okay.
and have her move up to knock out Zephiel.
just a nuisance.
Actually gets quite a lot of survivability for just his defensive build in Flame.
I am
Then
the
we'll
answer.
smite Peony forward,
On the right
dance
foot.
Kronya from here, and give her a full set of attack
Yeah,
buffs
yeah.
to absolutely demolish Flame and close out the match.
Guess you wanna die.
It was a fun one. We're getting pretty lucky with these bolt towers. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be another fun one for Kronya, especially since they have a pretty rarely seen maxed out Winter Felix as a fart safe bodyguard for their team. Distant defense makes him very hard for a lot of ranged units to break through him, and focusing on his res with a bond and, well, just distant defense can help him survive some mages that might usually give him problems. They also have this +10 Gangrel on their team, who's really cool to see. I might end up building him at some point. He's kind of always been there in the back of my mind, but I haven't quite committed to it yet. But it is fun to see him at a high investment like this. Even though Deathblow and Darting Blow are a bit budget, they still do the job of making him a speedy, damaging threat. And of course, Brave Eric on the side here is a very significant threat. They also have a Fallen Tiki, who's a bit more mobile than you might think at first, thanks to Solitary Dream. Even though she is next to someone, it's a dragon, and that means the skill still activates and she gets 2 movement to work with. And having 2 dancers with 2 Mirabilises gives their team a lot of extra bulk, just thanks to the mythic bonuses, and makes it very easy for them to catch up to an unsuspecting enemy. It's a cool team overall, and I'm going to need to take a few turns to pick it apart. But I think we should be able to manage it. We're going to take this first turn just to break a lot of structures,
I'll do it.
while setting
I am the
Takumi
answer.
up to break this healing tower for the next turn.
On the right foot.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'll do it.
We're out of their range here, and they don't have a dense trap anyway, so we don't have to worry too much about pulling the trigger early on this team.
Yes.
We're just going to smite Takumi forward and test this first bolt trap, which is real. Excellent. Not only does that enable Wings of
new
Mercy for
dawn.
Peony, but it also means we don't have to worry about testing this trap later.
Die.
Takumi can then move up and break this healing tower,
My
and then
warmest
Peony
greetings.
is going to dance him, which lets him jump all the way down past Naga,
Why not?
get danced again, move
Die.
over one more space to make sure that we're continuing to dent Felix and Gangrel,
It will be done.
and then Peony gets flipped down out of range of their threat.
Okay.
Kronya is just going to break this bolt tower for us, and we'll say go. From
What is
here,
your
we just need to
desire?
test one more trap before we get things started. And it shouldn't be too hard to do.
Oh, I'll do it.
We'll dance Naga,
Yes.
smite her forward to test this trap. It's not real, which is useful. And
Yes.
we'll just move Naga back down to here,
My warmest greetings.
dance her, let
Yeah,
Kronya
yeah.
move here, and
It
get
will
ready
be
to be
done.
repositioned forward by Naga next turn.
Die.
And then we'll say go. Another dance. And that's fine. Even if Kronya is getting affected by the attack debuff,
What
she
is your
shouldn't have
desire?
any problems finishing off this Tiki,
Okay.
since Dragon Slaying is pretty effective.
Ha!
And since Tiki was actually below 50%, her special fighter doesn't stop us from charging up Ruptured Sky, which is pretty important. We're going to have to do a couple
I am
of
the
movement
answer.
shenanigans to get Plumeria into the best position.
Close your eyes.
We'll just have her dance Kronya,
Yeah.
and then attack Cirrus, which finishes charging up Ruptured Sky and starts letting her hit very hard.
On the
I
right
don't
foot.
think it's going to be quite enough to let her finish off Felix
Time to
here,
kill.
since the combination of cancelling her buffs and the visible buffs he's getting from one of the Plumerias is pretty significant.
Just a nuisance.
But he also can't one-shot her, and she outspeeds him pretty heavily. And when he's reduced to 4 hit points and initiates on the following turn, she shouldn't have any issues finishing him off. And from here it should be a pretty straightforward Vantage sweep. Erica moves in first.
You fool.
1 hit point doesn't leave her much room for survival. Same with the first Mirabilis.
You fool.
And also means that they both end up attacking before anything else. Gangrel moves in and also can't survive the first hit.
You're in my way.
And then Felix should move and get danced and attack, but he can't survive this hit.
You fool.
And it cleans up the field very nicely. From here it should be a pretty straightforward turn of having Kronya break this tactic rune,
Done.
dancing her,
Okay.
and letting her close out the match.
Just a nuisance.
That was a fun one to navigate. Let's see what we get next. This is going to be another fun match, and another one where this Bolt Tower lines up extremely well into their team. I haven't seen many Odors even during his bonus week, which is a bit surprising. I imagine we'll start seeing more of him once his first rerun comes around. And I haven't seen a Volk on a defense team yet either, so he's fun to see pop up. They also have 2 different duo flyers on their team to enable their hindrance with a duo Hinoka and a Linja. Hinoka's an excellent armor buster, so safe armors aren't necessarily that good of an idea against this team, and Volk isn't any slouch at that either. Leaf and Cirrus are really mostly here to buff the team's stats, and, well, for the bonus week boost for Leaf as well. And this Fallen Edelgard on the side is another very annoying part of their team to handle. And it's probably the trickiest part of this for Kronya. But I don't think she's going to have too many problems with this. We should be able to clean things out without too much trouble. I'm going to just take this first turn to start
will be
opening
done.
things up.
Time to kill.
Kronya and Ashura can
There is
open
but one
these things
future.
up,
I'll do it.
and we'll have Plumeria move here,
My warmest greetings.
and let Peony dance Takumi forward to test this heavy trap, which is fake. That's fine. One of the nice things about dealing with this team is that Fallen Edelgard isn't actually going to get to march anywhere unless we knock out Ceros. Which means we can clear out the rest of this team, as long as Kronya just attacks into Odor on the 3rd turn. It also means that this tile below
Yes.
the Dark Shrine isn't threatened, which is very useful, since it gives Takumi an option to reach this Aether pot after we start the fight.
Why not?
And then we'll just have Plumeria attack this Bolt Tower. And end turn. And once our Bolt Tower launches, we'll just have
Okay.
Kronya step forward once,
New dawn.
dance her,
Yeah.
and move her in to pick off Odor. The extra chip damage this applies to Edelgard specifically is really nice.
Die.
Now we'll
What is your
flip Takumi
desire?
forward and get him ready to pick up an Aether pot and potentially also help break down Edelgard if necessary.
I am the answer.
We'll move Ashura here,
Close
and we'll
your
let Flumeria
eyes.
stay put to pick up this Aether pot next turn. Or help Kronya do it. Yep. And then the rest of their team just starts attacking into advantage, which also pre-charges, or fully charges, Ruptured Sky, which should give us a much easier time handling Edelgard
Just a
later on.
nuisance.
Ceres moves in, and another one bites the dust.
You fool!
Leaf goes next. Doesn't actually get to attack.
You're in my way.
Not that it would actually do much damage to Lyn, who only has 6 hit points left. And that's just not enough to
you wanna die.
survive. And that just leaves Edelgard. And from here, we're going to just pick up both of these Aether pots.
Oh, I'll do it.
And then we're going
Time
to let
to kill?
Kronya style a little by not quite finishing Edelgard off in one combat.
You fool!
But she does get to survive this bonfire counterattack.
Mortality.
And thanks to Fatal Smoke, Edelgard doesn't recover any health, while Kronya gets into
On the
Wings of
right
Mercy
foot.
range, letting Peony move in
Yeah,
to Denser for a very easy knockout on the follow-up.
You fool!
That was a nice clean match. Let's see what we get next. This is going to be another fun match. We haven't run into a Catria setup yet this week, and it'll be nice to let Kronya dismantle one of these. They also have this very impressive maxed out Kempf. I like this build a lot for him. It gives him a very solid mixed stat line. Just a nice combination of speed, defense, and res. And the trace also helps make him just that little bit more bulky and gives him some mobility that people might not be able to plan for. The rally trap on Moosepole is also a fun touch since it gives a lot of extra firepower to any units that attack onto one of these tiles, since he should always move forward to rally Catria. And the Farsave Hector over here is a good way to try and keep the team safe from any hit and run perches. This Alm using Water Sweep combos really nicely with his Weapon Refine and gives him a full spectrum of sweep effects, as long as he meets that speed check. Flashing Blade is a nice way to help double down on that, but without more investment it might be hard for him to actually secure those speed checks. Yeah, Joint Drive Speed or another skill might also help a little more than this threaten. They also have 2 Mythics on their team, just as a 6th slot Enabler in Ceros and a Dancer with Mirabilis. Whose Distant Guard also helps protect Hector from any marauding ranged opponents, and this Def Res Gap actually can bounce around quite a bit if you're using a Chill Defense like we are on this team. I don't think we should have too many problems clearing this out. It should be pretty straightforward once we get things going. And we don't even need to worry about breaking this healing tower this match, which is fun.
Okay.
We're just going to test this first heavy trap before anything
Close
else.
your eyes.
There is but one
Smite
future.
Kronya forward. Yep, the other
Time to
one's the
kill?
real one. And then we can break this tactic rune before it causes us any grief.
What is your desire?
Naga's going to break this,
My warmest
and
greetings.
we'll dance Kronya over
Yeah.
to also break this panic manner.
I'll
And
do it.
Takumi's just going to move down here and get ready to start sniping things. We are actually planning this out so that we tag Moosepole on this first hit, and then tag Hector on the second, which won't give him a chance to get healed by this healing tower. Having Ulm and Catria recover this health isn't really too relevant, since they should end up at 1 hit point anyway. Nothing happens the first turn.
Yes.
From here, we're just going to shuffle around and get everybody into place for this
On
next
the right
turn.
foot.
Peony's going to move over here.
Why not?
Mary's going to move over here.
Yes.
Astro's going to move over and... well, Kronya up.
Die.
And Takumi is going to move in to make sure we snipe the rest of their team along with the Bolt Tower. And we'll say go. Dance comes through, and nothing else happens.
Okay.
Here, we should be able to get things going by exploiting part of Maltet's Refine that isn't usually relevant. Since Hector's below 25% health, he doesn't actually get to neutralize
Why
these
not?
penalties from Plumeria.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
with Special Fighter offline too, he can't slow down her special charge. And overall, it should be pretty easy for her to pick him off here. And with Hector out of the way, the rest
My
of their
warmest
team
greetings.
doesn't have anything protecting them
Time to kill?
from Kronya, who's just going to be able to vantage sweep her way through almost all of them. I'm pretty sure one of either Sarah's or Mirabilis is going to survive this turn, but other than that, we should be fine.
Yes.
So Naga's just going to move up and break this Bolt Tower,
There is but
and we'll get
one
ready
future.
to pick up these Aether pots
Die.
next turn. And with Fatal Smoke applied to their whole team, we don't have to worry about the healing tower at all.
You're in my way.
And down goes Alm. This one moves in next, since he has the least amount of health to lose between himself and
Just a nuisance.
Kemp. But Dragon Slaying and Ruptured Sky combine for a very effective Dragon Slayer.
You're in my way.
And Kemp doesn't really have much of a chance here either. Cirrus moves in, and then Mirabilis gets to Wings of Mercy in and try to
Just
attack.
A nuisance.
But Kronya's thoughts are down easily enough.
What is your
Then we
desire?
can just have Naga flip Takumi
I'll
forward,
do it.
let him,
Yes.
Ashura, pick up these Aether pots for us,
Okay.
and then let Kronya close out the match.
Just a nuisance.
One more dragon down. And this one we didn't even have the dragon slaying buff for. That's fun. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be an interesting rematch near the end of the week. I haven't really had this much time as I'd like to plan this one out, so there's a good chance it goes horribly wrong. They have a very solid team here, with this maxed out Veronica using a Melancholy Staff, and combining that with this Deflect Melee Fatal Smoke Odor is a great way to help shut down any enemy Fjorms, as is this Sigurd, who is using an Odd Pulse tie to try and negate pre-charged specials. I think it's mostly for Reagan, though it can hit some lower health Fjorms as well. And they also have this in-season Alina, and a maxed out Reinhardt, who's also very solid over here. They're also sporting a Fjorm of their own, who's very good with a Deflect Missile Seal at handling any enemy Linjas and most other ranged units that come her way. And round the whole team out with a Mirabilis, whose aerobatics and ground orders are a good way to help the team navigate the map even if they're cavalry, since it can help Alina avoid any potential gravity effects, and just avoid any problems that enemy teams throw at them. This chill attack's actually pretty sneaky too, since there's a good chance that it messes with people by enabling her weapon when they're not ready for it. I'm going to need to actually test this bolt trap on the first turn, and we're not going to be able to avoid having it hit Naga and Fjorm if it's real. But we are planning for that.
Where to today?
Gatekeeper's just going to move up and test it out. And it's fake. That actually makes things a lot simpler for us. And since we don't have to worry about healing everybody here, we can just move Fjorm over,
Close your eyes.
dance her,
Careful,
move her
careful.
down into position to isolate Mirabilis and Lelina for next turn, since we want to avoid the odd recovery,
It will be
and
done.
then we'll let Naga flip Gatekeeper back and stay in range for our safety fence. Now we're going to very carefully not debuff Odor this turn. We want him to survive, even though that will let him apply Fatal Smoke to Fjorm, since it'll give Fjorm a way to recharge Ice Mirror on the following turn. Fjorm is just going to stay put, and we'll let Gatekeeper move forward to buff everybody.
Careful,
Fjorm's
careful.
going to move over one tile to try and isolate these two for next turn, and
I'll
we'll
do
let
it.
Plumeria move over here,
Yes.
and get Ashura to move forward one space to rebuff Fjorm and Naga for next turn. Okay. Yep, Dance comes through first, and then... Oh, Veronica actually moves in. I actually expected Odor to go first, since he should survive here, but maybe I miscalculated and he doesn't. Still, Fjorm moves in and tanks all of the debuffs. Odor moves next and can do a solid chunk of damage thanks to Brutal Shell,
You can't hide from me.
but he's actually not going to survive this, which is a little unfortunate and will make the next turn a bit harder. But Naga's okay. And then Reinhardt moves in and can do some damage, but Triangle Disadvantage means that Fjorm's not going to have too many problems knocking him out, even though we don't get to recharge Ice Mirror. Nope. And everyone moves forward. This turn actually ended up taking a bit of thinking, and I hope that I've come up with the right solution for it. I am going to have Fjorm tank this Lelina and Sigurd, but we are going to need to recharge Ice Mirror first, so that she doesn't get splattered too hard. And
I'll
doing
protect
that means we're going to have her swap Gatekeeper
I love
before
you.
the other Fjorm heals her back to full health.
Close your
Then we're going to
eyes.
dance her,
Yes.
flip her forward,
Lady
and let
Niffle.
her move up to one-shot Mirabilis. And now that she's here, we're going to
Where
have
to today?
Gatekeeper use the ground orders from the other Fjorm to move up here and intercept their Fjorm, who should always attack him and never actually get anything done with it, while Lelina and Sigurd move in after since they'll both get knocked out by Fjorm.
Yes.
And we'll just move Ashura down to avoid the gravity effect and say go. Nope. Fjorm moves in first, can get a little bit of damage done, but not enough to really concern Gatekeeper. Lelina moves next, and while she can do a lot of visible damage, it's not going to punch through that Ice Mirror. And Fjorm is happy to return the damage to Lelina and one-shot her. Sigurd, a lot like Lelina, can do a chunk with that Triangle Adept, but without both joint drag attacks active, he can't even really punch through that healing, leaving us with a very clear map for this turn. Now we just really want to pick up these Aether pots before we close things out.
What is your
So
desire?
we're going to take another bit of a convoluted approach to this and flip Ashura over
I am the answer.
and have her smite Gatekeeper, which buffs his defenses and means that Fjorm's not going to do any damage to him this turn.
Greetings!
Then we'll have him move over, find the real gravity trap,
I'll protect
let
you.
our Fjorm move up and clear out that tactic room.
Why not?
Then we'll dance Ashura,
Let's find happiness.
And then just spend a bit of time
Yes.
getting back out of range while we bait Fjorm further forward. The Fallout Denial and, well, the general bulk of Gatekeeper means that we don't really have to worry about Fjorm anymore.
There
Now
is
we should
but
be able
one
to clean
future.
things up pretty easily. We'll just
Where
have
to
Gatekeeper
today?
move up and break the Stark Shrine
Close your
before
eyes.
using aerobatics to dance in and pick up the first Aether Pot,
Reporting for duty.
before we let
Lady Niffle.
Fjorm use Guidance to pick up the second Aether Pot, and enemy phase her alter ego down here. We outstat her pretty heavily when it's 1v3 like this, so it's not too hard of a fight. It was a fun one to solve. This match is going to be a bit more straightforward at the end of the week. It's another rematch, which they can be a bit of a mixed bag. It's really just a lift loss prevention team with 4 in-season legendaries paired with a bonus mythic and a second mythic to round out all the lift loss. With that said, the remixes for Marth, Gunther, and Ephraim make them pretty dangerous to tackle if you're just underestimating them. And this Ephraim in particular is very bulky. I don't think he's going to be bulky enough to give us too many problems, but it's still pretty impressive to see.
Die.
We're going to spend a turn
Time to
or
kill.
two just clearing some structures up. We don't have to worry very much about
Yes.
positioning since they're all boxed in,
My warmest greetings.
I am the answer.
which means we can just take our time and let Takumi's weapon go to
I'll
work.
do it.
It will be done.
Turn 1 goes by. No healing tower means we don't have to worry about any of them recovering health either, and we'll just wait for the bolt tower to tag Gunther before we go in.
I'll
We'll just
do
move
it.
Takumi down and let him blink at these 3 again.
On the right foot.
Move Peony over and
Yes.
flip Plumeria to the left.
Close your eyes.
Get everybody into range and say go one more time. And then from here we'll just
yeah.
let Kronya open up this Aether
Why
fountain,
not?
dance her forward
Okay.
to smack out Ephraim while his solo skills are offline.
A
And
new
then use her
dawn.
freshly charged special to
Time to kill.
move in and knock out Lilina as well.
You fool.
We're not worried about Gunther since she's just going to get vantaged down and leave slow enough at this point that we shouldn't have to worry about him either. So we'll just end this by flipping Asher forward and
Yes.
moving her in to give Kronya some more buffs for next turn,
What is your desire?
and then we'll say go. Nope, Gunther moves first and gets vantaged down,
You fool.
letting Leaf attack next and suffer the same fate.
You're in my way.
The other 2 aren't in range and should be pretty easy for Kronya to pick off here.
Yeah,
We'll just let her finish off Marth, who's very impressively bulky,
Guess you wanna die.
but that's not quite enough, and without distant counter he's a bit of a sitting duck anyway.
There is
Then we'll
but
just
one
push
future.
Kronya forward,
My warmest greetings.
dance her, and
Okay.
move her in to close out the week.
Just a nuisance.
And down they go. This was another fun week overall. It was really good to bring Kronya back into action. And the Bolt Tower is a great week for her. It's almost like an extra bonus week for Kronya without the stats. And it was good to let a bonus week Naga do a little bit of work in that almost last match of the week. There's a very good chance that I might not be able to publish too many more videos in the coming weeks. Work's been a little rough, and until I get some more time available, I might not be able to record the matches as much or as well as I would like, let alone edit them afterwards. So, if there isn't a video every week over the next few weeks, don't be too worried. It's just a temporary thing, and I will be back as soon as I can. I'm very interested in exploring the new summoner duels as well, and would love to set some of those up with viewers or just as a showcase. So that's something to look forward to as well. I'm hoping to make January a bit of a resurgence once I've handled all of whatever work has to throw at me and can move on. I do have a Discord channel if you want to keep track of any channel news or hang out and chat. There's a link in the description, and there's also a Patreon page down there if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.